Aaron Torres about to be a little bit surprised because I texted him earlier this morning saying, I'm not sure if I'm going to be on your segment because I've got to be in the dugout to interview Dave Van Horn before this doubleheader. Well, here we are. We've done the interview. And AT,
Look at
I
you.
guess I lied to you, so I'm sorry about that. How are you doing?
It's okay, man. It's okay. I'm starting to question a lot of things about our friendship that has now spanned, probably half a decade at this point, Phil. But listen, you owned up to it. I was expecting, SmackDown to take the whole segment and, kind of do his Colin Cowherd, Jim Rome bit. And, I thought he was riding solo today. So, but it's great to be with you guys, and I'm glad everything's done. So, is this a big doubleheader? I remember like 10 years ago, South Carolina was really good. It feels like there's not much South Carolina buzz these days.
No, they're number 9 in the country in one of the polls. They're ranked in all the polls. They're actually pretty good this year. Got a good pitching staff. But yesterday was only their 3rd home loss of the year. They haven't lost a home series yet. The Arkansas wins 1 of 2 today. There's their first home series loss. By the way, I know, we don't talk college baseball too much, but once we get closer to the postseason, I know that the Arkansas baseball team, you will start to refer to them as your Hogs. We are coming close to that, my friend.
I mean, there's only 2 contingencies. One, if UConn is somehow way better than I am aware of. I know that, George Springer, was there many years ago, Matt Barnes, who played in the bigs, but yeah, as long as UConn's not good, and the Hogs got to be good too. I mean, I'm not jumping on the bandwagon. For I don't even know. Is it a first round? Is it it's the super regionals. What's the round before the super regionals?
Regionals, then the super regionals, and then the College World Series. Yeah.
Yeah, if we're going to lose to Coastal Carolina in the regionals, I mean, I need at least a super regionals run here. Coach Muss has raised the bar for everybody. I don't even tune into the Hogs until the second weekend of the tournament anymore. That's what Coach Muss has done.
You're a spoiled Razorback baseball fan, Aaron Torres.
I will tell you, the Arkansas basketball fan base is about the swaggiest fan base in America right now. I mean, with due respect, one Elite Eight run, and it's like, oh my goodness, it's incredible. But I'm obviously, we talk about it every week. I'm happy for the fan base, and Phil, you and I specifically, Matt, you kind of came on board about 18 months ago, but Phil, you and I, we had to grit our teeth through a lot of tough segments about Razorbacks football and basketball. So it's fun to talk about 2 programs that are very much on the rise. And, of course, as you said, I do follow my Hogs on the diamond peripherally, my Omahogs, and, I hope to see them back at it's not Rosenblatt anymore, right? Whatever the new stadium is, that's where I hope to see them this year.
TD Ameritrade. I hope so. I think they'll be there, but I can't say that. Well, I just did publicly on a radio show. Anyway, we had Muss on yesterday, and he said something that I thought really speaks to the truth of how special what this past season was for Arkansas basketball. You got a totally different team. Looks like he's rebuilt a really good team, but he did say, look, I mean, he won 12 SEC games, Elite Eight. It's not fair to put the same expectations on the next group of players. That doesn't mean that they can't do it, that they might not make it there or maybe a little bit farther. It just, you have to pay respect to what just happened, right? What they just did.
Well, it's really interesting. For me, I mean, it goes without saying, anyone who's ever listened to me on this show knows I love the sport of college basketball. And it does remind me, and it's not a total apples to apples, but it reminds me of, following Kentucky basketball the second year that John Calipari was there. First year he comes in, he brings in John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins and Eric Bledsoe. Nobody realized it at the time, but, I mean, that was in many ways maybe his best overall recruiting class. And I think Kentucky fans just assumed, okay, we're going to get whoever the John Wall is in the next class, that's how it's going to be, and we'll get the next DeMarcus Cousins, and we're going to go, I think they only lost 3 games the entire year, and so ironically their last one in the Elite Eight. And so I think everybody kind of just assumed, hey, we're going to go 35-3 every year, and we're going to get, every year we're going to have a John Wall type. And obviously, look, it didn't work out that way. Now, they won a national championship. They did, of course, have made multiple Final Fours under the Calipari era, but that was something that Calipari really had to that following season where I think they were a 4 seed in the tournament. They were respectable 25-8, something like that. I don't remember. But, Calipari had to kind of explain that as well. And I think that's something that Razorback fans do have to understand. It's not that they can't get there, not that Chris Likes and Stanley Amude and all the guys coming in aren't going to be special, but that it is a process. And by the way, I would say it's not only fans. I mean, Devo Davis, Jalen Williams, I mean, they've only played 1 year of college basketball and it ended, in the Elite Eight. And so I think that, I know the players probably return late May, early June, whatever it ends up being. And I do think, I would guess that specifically at Arkansas, it's going to be about turning the page, kind of saying, hey, like, last year was incredible, but for those of you guys who were here last year, this is a new team and a new group with new goals and new expectations. And obviously, I think it's also about instilling in the new players, whether it's transfers, high school players, whatever, hey, just because last year's group had success doesn't guarantee anything for this year. So I'm not surprised to hear that, Phil, and I think, coaching is you coach the players, you coach the fans, you coach everybody, but I think it's a totally fair point by Coach Munn.
Aaron Torres joining us here on Halftime AT. I want to jump around college basketball with some of the biggest stories that are happening right now. I want to ask you about Desi Sills, announcing a couple days ago that he is transferring to Bruce Pearl and to the Auburn Tigers. And we had talked for the past few days, me and Phil. I don't know if there was necessarily like a Twitter battle going on, but Desi tweeting out saying that he can realize his full potential, basically, going to Auburn. Nobody's holding him back anymore. Musselman responded with a tweet that may have been directed with him, just like no selfish players, regardless of that. How do you see Desi Sills fitting in with Bruce Pearl and this Auburn staff?
Well, he's going to be coached hard, and I don't know what happened, and I don't want to criticize. And honestly, man, guys, it's funny. I try to keep my finger on the pulse of a lot of different things, and that is something that I Matt, until you bring it up, I was not aware of that, and that's why you guys do such a great job covering the beat, but I wasn't aware of that. One, what I will say is a couple different things. First of all, I feel bad for Desi Sills because this is how it works sometimes in high-level sports, is that he was a really good Hog for a really long time, and, Devo Davis just kind of hit the afterburners in the second half of the season, and you gotta play the guy that's helping you win games. And so, one, I feel bad for Desi Sills because I think he did everything right, at least, publicly. I don't know what happened behind the scenes. And sometimes you just get beat out by a better man. So that's one. Two, he's going to be coached hard by Bruce Pearl, but he's going to have an opportunity there. That Auburn, I think, quietly is one of the really interesting programs in this particular offseason. They lose a lot of the guys that we know, but they've actually themselves picked up a lot of really good transfers. They have one 5-star kid coming in. So, Bruce Pearl was down this year. They're another one that kind of dealt with the NCAA stuff and appear ready to move past it in a big way. It's funny, the programs that were initially involved with that FBI stuff, Oklahoma State was awesome this year, doesn't seem to have missed a beat. Obviously, USC just got finalized their sanctions. We talked about it last week. They made the Elite Eight. And so I only bring it up as Auburn. I do think this was kind of that transition year where recruiting caught up with them. It was hard to bring in elite players outside of Sharif Cooper, but, man, they bounced back really nicely. And so I'm really excited to see them next year. But I'll be honest, Matt, I had not even heard that story until you brought it up.
I think it's just something you kind of had to read into, and us being media guys, that's just kind of how it goes here in Arkansas. Want to touch on a couple more things here before I let you go and throw it back over to Phil. I wasn't necessarily critical of the move, but Mike Woodson going to Indiana wasn't necessarily like the sexiest hire, I guess, that Indiana probably could have bought. But good Lord, AT, Mike Woodson is killing it right now on the recruiting trail, my friend.
Yeah, no, I've talked a lot about this in everything that I do. When he was hired, I think it's funny because we all do this stuff and people try to sell certain narratives. And, it was in the middle of the NCAA tournament. Juwan Howard was killing it at Michigan. And I think Indiana tried to sell, hey, this is going to be our Juwan Howard. And I'm just like, dude, to compare a 46-year-old, because of an NBA background, a 46-year-old that, by the way, he had two sons that were high-level recruits, so he kind of knew how the recruiting game worked, all that stuff. Comparing him to a 63-year-old man that's been out of college basketball for 40 years, I just didn't buy it. And whether it is all Mike Woodson or whether it's, he's made some really smart staff hires around him. He retained Archie Miller's top assistant, a guy by the name of Kenya Hunter. He brought in a young assistant named Dane Fife, who actually played at Indiana and was at Michigan State for the last few years. But no, he's been awesome. He being Mike Woodson. For people who don't follow, first of all, he did what every head coach has to do now, which was re-recruit the players on his roster. There were, I believe, 5 players in the portal when he got there. 4 of them have decided to return to Indiana. Indiana had an all-Big Ten big man named Trace Jackson Davis, who is returning for his junior year when, there was speculation he was going to go pro. and he's done a good job. 2 players in the portal, 1 high school player. And so, I'm really impressed. I really am. And I know I get it. He's never coached a game. It's a different kind of deal. I get all that stuff. But I also do kind of really believe that, I'm just blown away by whether it's him specifically, whether it's the group that he's put around him. He's done a good job of kind of doing what every coach has to do this year, which is rebuild his roster on the fly.
AT, want to end on a tough note about Terence Clark yesterday. It's just tragic, We barely even got a chance to see the kid play. He was going to go into the NBA draft. He was probably a first-rounder. I know a lot of people around the Kentucky fan base and program and KSR, and we'll make fun of Kentucky and all that kind of stuff. None of that matters.
Of course.
This just sucks.
Well, it does. And by the way, I think everybody can kind of differentiate a fan or a media member poking at another fan base on social media with something that's important this year. And listen, I was critical of Terence Clark this year because there was speculation about, quote unquote, how injured he was, when he missed most of the season. But all that goes to the back burner. None of it matters, when something like yesterday happens. And it's just, look, it's tragic. He was a young man. I got the chance to interview him once at one of these All-American camps that comes through L.A. every summer. Great kid, great energy, always smiling. On the basketball court, he didn't quite have the season that people thought he would at Kentucky. And I know that from a basketball perspective, there was some disappointment there. But to see the Kentucky fan base and how, just hurt they were, and the media members that covered him that had to be critical, 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, it's just a tragic event, man. And it's like, no matter what happens, whenever a young person loses his life, whenever a young person, on the precipice of his lifelong dream passes away, it's just awful. There's really nothing else to say. All I can definitively say is I did have the pleasure of interviewing once, just a great young man, dynamic, full of energy, full of personality. Even when he wasn't playing, you saw him waving a towel, smiling, first one to high-five his teammates. And so, as you said, man, just a tragic, tragic, tragic loss. There's no other way to put it, Phil. And I appreciate you giving me a minute to talk about it because it's obviously a sad thing to end on, but it's an important thing to kind of discuss his life and legacy.
Yeah. I really feel terrible for the people he was close with, his family, teammates, administrators, coaches that got to know him. So, yeah. But we'll end it with that and hopefully have better things to end on next week, AT. Appreciate your time, as always. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, guys. Talk soon.
Make sure to download the latest edition of the Aaron Torres Sports Podcast anywhere you get your podcast. I get mine on Apple, and he's on Fox Sports Radio tomorrow night. Aaron Torres every Friday here on Halftime. Hey, don't forget about the Yumbrella Flash Mob Junior. If you're going to do some cold water bass fishing, you need to be using a Yumbrella Flash Mob Junior. It's the best lure for duplicating a small school of shad and can be worked from the top of the water column to the bottom. Whether you're trying to win a bass tournament or whoop up on a bunch of white bass and stripers, the Yumbrella Flash Mob Junior will catch them. Walmart, Bass Pro Shops, Academy, LureNet.com, and tackle stores all over the place carry them. The Yumbrella Flash Mob Junior. All right, I got one more segment with you. 877-377-6963. Right back.